So, let's talk about phase 2 of what the world is coming to, and Walmart and how they did all their bullshit. Now, something's happened to me in the past before. New company comes into town, doing what I do, and they turn around, they go around stealing guys from all the other companies, promise them a whole bunch of money. They pay them way more than what the market value is. And the company did it last time was RSM in Oklahoma City. They came in, they hired all these people up, they made big promises, paying people way more, taking work dirt cheap, then dropped and folded up like a broke ladder. So now they've changed their name to something else. Now they're doing concrete and steel erection. You know the funny part about that shit? I don't understand why when somebody turns around, Alpha Steel has been Alpha Steel from day one. But there's so many people, so many companies, so many small businesses and large businesses that turn around and fuck everybody over, then change their name and start back into business. The part I don't get, and I've never been able to wrap my head around, is contractors, in my case, general contractors, knowing who they are, knowing they fucked them over before, because they're scared their bid, if they don't use their bid, they won't win the job. We'll use them again, and again, and again. More bullshit. I just lost 2 guys last week, which, oh, and by the way, of all the guys that said, oh, I want to come to work for you, you guys seen all the messages, that's nothing compared to the private messages. One guy actually showed up, and Stacy had called him and told him that I was running behind. I would be able to meet him this morning instead of yesterday morning. Nah, he was there and told him, well, I'll just go ahead and work till I talk to him. So I may have a keeper there just because he showed up with his tools ready to work. So this is just the start of it, because that's the other thing that's going to happen when people do start looking for work. Some of these companies aren't going to be there, and then other ones are going to make big fucking promises and never follow through, because at the end of the day, you can only pay X amount of money per employee. When you take overhead cost and all that, you can't do it for free. So it's going to be real interesting to see how all this plays out over the next few months, because, well, just like the McDonald's thing. Somebody brought up the McDonald's thing again. One, at McDonald's, you're going to work $15 an hour. You're going to work 27 hours, 28 hours, 31 hours, to where they don't have to pay no benefits at all. And that's going to be their way of keeping that employee until, and I just seen it the other day, I didn't know it, damn nose itching. I wonder what that, there's supposed to be a meeting behind that. Now they got kiosks in the McDonald's. So McDonald's may be in a bind right now and offering people $15 an hour, but watch what they do. Watch what this shit, everybody turn around and pushing and pushing and pushing. Hey, perfect example, when we got into the big discussion of unions and all that the other day, which I've never been against the union, it's just not my deal. Just like Oklahoma City had a GM plant. Big GM plant. So when times got tough, instead of all the workers going, hey, you know what, we understand this tough right now, we'll wait till things get better. They both their backs up, their union reps went for them and told them it's this way or the highway. Well, guess what? GM pulled out of Oklahoma. So that's what everybody's got to realize. I'm not against anybody working, anybody doing their thing. I'm not against you pulling your fucking stimulus check. I'm not against any of that. What I am against is the fact that everybody's taking it too far. Not a matter of right or wrong, it's a matter of when is the time of going back. It's like when I had my vape shops. I knew there was an expiration date on it, and at a certain time I sold my part out because I didn't see where it was going to be profitable much longer. At the end of the day, that's what some people miss in these videos, of what I'm talking about. Instead of trying to pull up on one singular thing, like me saying that this is the future and everybody saying they were doing that before. Yes, they were doing that before. But here's the thing, guys. This is the fucking most important part that you're missing on this. Nobody wants bad publicity, especially a big corporation. McDonald's, Walmart, any of that. When they started easing those kiosks in for people to turn around and start checking out their own shit, you know, there was an argument to be made. You're taking the jobs away from American people. Everybody could have stood up, had a voice about it, refused to use the machines, and could have changed it. But instead, COVID hits. Now they got all the backing in the world to where nobody can say you're taking American jobs, you're putting the American people, you know, in a position they don't need to be in because everybody's sitting home getting a stimulus check. That's the part you guys were missing about that whole deal. Where if everybody would have said, when they cleared it and said, hey, it's time to go back to work, if everybody would have went back to work, then we had a voice, then we had something to stand on to say, no, you're not going to bring all these kiosks in and take American jobs. You can bring in, just like they did in the beginning, you take in 10, 15 of them and give people that option. But now, everybody's going to use that for an excuse. And I mean, when labor gets too high, automation comes into play. Remember that, guys. When wages get too high, that the company can't make profit, it's cheaper to make the investment on automation. Just like it's cheaper to buy from China than to make it in America. At some point, guys, we got to start becoming a nation that is self-supportive. Boycott China, whatever we got to do. But at some point, we have to decide how we go back to being a superpower, because that's what we used to be. That's what we've always been. And I love where I live. I love this country. I'm very patriotic. There's a lot of things I'm not, but I am very patriotic. I do appreciate everything that, even though I went to prison, I still appreciate all the law officers, all the first responders, our troops. I respect all of them, and thank you for everything that you've done through a bad time, especially the police officers, because you know, with all this Black Lives Matter and all these groups stirring up shit and all of that those guys are the ones that took the brunt of the problem. They're the ones that had to deal with that shit on the front lines, and people calling them, you know, racist and everything else. So at the end of the day, I'm a very patriotic person. I believe I believe we live in the absolute number one country in the world. I believe the American people are the most resilient people, but I'm starting to wonder where we're headed with this deal, and when we're going to stand up and make it right. Everybody keeps asking, I get a lot of messages saying, what do we need somebody to point us in the right direction, and believe it or not, I've been studying on that deeply. But the first thing we got to do is we got to take our nation back. That's my opinion for what it's worth.